This segment of the Chopin podcast is brought to you by the Chopin Foundation of the United States, presenters of the National Chopin Competition in Miami, Florida, January 2025.
One of the remarkable things about classical piano is that it's still largely an oral tradition, with wisdom about interpreting great works of the repertoire passed down from generation to generation. And many great pianists today carry the torches of their teachers, who were great pianists in their own right. Take Eric Liu, who won the US National Chopin Competition in 2015 when he was only 17, before taking fourth prize in Warsaw later that year. Among his teachers and mentors is Dong Tai-son, gold medalist of the 10th International Chopin Competition. I was lucky to meet with Eric on a recent video call where I captured his reactions to two performances of the Barcarolle from the Warsaw competition. One, his own, from 2015, and the other, his teacher's, Dong Tai-son, from 1980.
Impressions.
His sound is so sophisticated. So he has so many layers of sound, exactly what he wants it to come out, whether it's in Chopin often, of course, lyrical singing passage, but also he really knows how to speak on the piano. And this is something it is very different than singing on the piano, like speaking. And this requires so much sophistication, and he has to first come from the brain, from the heart, and his technique perfectly serves him to be able to do it.
I don't want to over focus on the hands because that would sort of fetishize the physical aspect. Clearly there's like a spirit and a mind behind this and intention, but he's almost feeling out what he wants next. And so you can go like this, and he has a kind of almost spank like wrist at times, But then it's like right from that same position, you can caress, you can push, stroke, you know what I mean? So it's almost, do you sense that he's like feeling out the possibilities of sound?
All of these sort of movements is very intuitive. He has so much control over exactly what he wants to do and exactly the sound that is required for any specific context. I think, yeah, that looseness before the touch as well as after the touch, releasing any sort of tension. But he also has this point. And often you really need this point when you are speaking on the piano, because otherwise it would just be kind of mushy. And even the most pianissimo parts can have this point. I'm thinking that all the great pianists have this. Sokolov especially, and Volodos, and Marsa, and Mitsuko Uchida, Radulupur. All of these people, they have very, very different techniques, but all have something in common. They all really know how to release tension immediately. So his is definitely part of that. I mean, it reminds me of one specific thing that he taught me, or I observed from him, actually in the Barcarolle, so the coda, yeah. So this beautiful. I mean, I didn't do it very well, but it's like. Speaking also, yeah, in the beginning of Barcarolle. Or for instance, second ballade. So when you want to bring out this alto voice, but it's not right. That's a totally different. It's sort of this. There's this. It's a space, but it's not too much time, but it's this. I mean, it's almost basically like imitating maybe what a singer would do. And often when he demonstrates these things, he's directly singing it out loud, and so ultimately that shows up in the sort of magic of piano playing.
I love that detail. It's because it's not rubato in this conventional sense of take time, slow things down in an expressive way. It's a way. It's almost an illusion of making a note glow by sending it slightly later in relation to the rest of the texture. And
yes, with this very strong connection from the previous notes. I think that connection isn't anything to do with the hand. It's all from in here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely there.
Yeah. When he demonstrated it to me, it was even more apparent. And yeah.
Well, this is the kind of thing that grows even more, I think, over time.
Oh, for sure. It's changed a lot over the years. Yes. More variety, more also just this certain maturity of expression. But it's not to say about how he played when he was younger. I just think it's a natural development of any great pianist from their 20s. Yeah.
When did you start studying with him?
When I was 13, so 2012 was the beginning.
So you were under his influence, so to speak, leading up to the Chopin competition in 2015.
Sure, yeah.
Are you willing to hear how Eric Liu did it in 2015?
Sure, go ahead.
Dare I say you did it even more than he did?
Well, I wish it could be more. That's one of those passages where it's almost really impossible to have it sound as you would like in your head. I think also because of the right hand. I mean, if you just played that passage on its own as a left hand, you would actually have more freedom to take more time to really make that expression. But somehow because of the right hand, you cannot like have it wait with those fast notes. So you have a bit more restrictions to really do. And then it's so difficult because you have to make that connection, but also enough sound on that top note, but also, of course, not too much, because if it's too much, it would totally ruin the whole thing. So it's really very difficult. Yeah.
I think you just described what's hard about Chopin in general, but that passage really exemplifies it. And
Dante's actually, he said the Barcarolle is probably the single most difficult piece by Chopin. It's hard to say. I don't know if it's more difficult than the sonatas but it's definitely up there. Definitely one of them, because it's just so nuanced. It's not one of those pieces you can play purely by intuition. You really have to work on every single detail, and that eventually has to come out extremely naturally and spontaneous.
how old are you here? Dare I ask? In this video that we're looking at you here,
17.
17.
Yeah.
So you're feeling some of these little nuances that we're talking about, like mid-teens. You're feeling these subtleties. Do you remember when like you started noticing these things? Did you have teachers that revealed them to you? Did you discover them on your own? Like, what can you trace any of these musical instincts back to your childhood at all?
Hard to say, but I mean, I've always loved music very deeply, especially beautiful moments. I think other aspects of music maybe did not come as quickly from the very beginning as the beauty and sort of emotional power. Like I remember hearing Mozart when I was 6 or so, or Beethoven, the like second movement of Emperor Concerto. I just thought it was the most beautiful thing in the world. It was one of those things hard to describe. I tried to describe it to my school friends and nobody really understood what I was talking about. So
this is the story of my life. The moment I started feeling butterflies and goosebumps and stuff for Chopin and Beethoven, like I had nobody to talk to about it. I wanted to play another embarrassing thing for you, if you don't mind, just indulging me. This is just a moment from the US National Chopin Competition in Miami, 2015. This is a competition you won. It also launched you into Warsaw because the top 2 winners just get an automatic ticket to the live rounds later in the year. And so I thought I would just play this moment where they're announcing the first prize.
The prize goes to Eric Lu.
Talk about the importance of Miami and just what that experience meant for you.
I was really totally surprised and shocked. I had just turned 17 3 months earlier, and it was my first competition, like senior age, so adult competition. I really didn't expect anything. I sort of just, in a way, I just sort of played the works, and then it happened.
So you had great success in 2015, but you also went and won leads, a few years later. So how has your mentality changed from being a competition pianist? Maybe you never thought of yourself that way, but you were preparing for them, to a concert pianist professionally.
I would say approach to music wasn't this massive change. I mean, when I was preparing for the competitions, the sort of mentality I took to preparing these pieces is the same as I would do now. Although I would say now there's less time to work that long or that detailed.
But you have accumulated training in there. So you actually it must be more efficient now. It's like you have in your mind, I have to play this Mozart concerto next week, or I've got Rachmaninoff in a month, or what. Surely in your mind, this music is swimming around. Is that what the experience is now? It's just like, okay, like I've done this. I'm confident. I know how to bring out a great performance of a work on short notice, basically.
Well, I would say I'm never that confident. It's always a scary thing to go on stage, but I would say the good thing is that almost all the pieces I decide to play, first of all, I really just love them. And that's why I chose to play them. And usually when I love the piece before I've ever even played it, I have a pretty clear idea of how I might want the piece to sound. And I probably already listened to many recordings of the piece and have certain ideas. So I guess in that way, it's quicker. But also, I think a great thing is sometimes you don't have to work on a piece very continuously, like in terms of practicing every day. Sometimes you have a very intense period with some works and you perform it a few times and then you drop it and then you come back to it in a year or two. And actually that sort of break did a lot of good. And you come back to it with fresh perspective, different inspirations, but you have that sort of experience intuitively of playing the piece. And then it's a natural development. And that's how I think it's the best way to progress repertoires, just through many, many years, because pieces just need time and they need time to live within you, because of course you'll have this intuitive reactions of exactly how you want to maybe do it initially, but it will never be that mature or thought out completely, and also simply execution, because you might think you're doing something, but actually it doesn't sound like that.
And there's also this phenomenon, like you mentioned with the Barcarolle. I always think of Schnabel's quote. Like, a lot of the music we play is, so-called better than it can be played.
Yeah.
But also that's why we play it. Do you sort of feel that when you're playing? Like, you're always sort of beneath or aspiring to something that's unreachable?
Always. It's really unreachable, and always you're working on it, and always you're trying to think about it and living with it. And also, even if you so-called delivered a great performance yesterday, that doesn't guarantee at all what I'm going to do today. But it's a great journey, because the music is so great and never ending in its possibilities and inspiration. So that's why I really don't get bored of, even if I've played the work many, many times or over many years.